My father always made it clear, I was nothing but the mistake of his youth. Look at your brothers, he'd sneer. Real men. You. Just the shame your mother left behind. When the notary read my grandfather's will and declared that everything was left to me, my father's face twisted like he'd swallowed poison. This is a joke. That decrepit old man barely knew his own name at the end. This will is a farce. He slammed his hand on the table and turned on me. Either you prove you carry my blood, or I'll contest it. I won't let a bastard steal my family's legacy. Before I could answer, my older brother, his golden boy, shoved me hard against the wall. Take the test, he hissed, or I'll drag you into court like the rat you are. My stepmother let out a bitter laugh. Everyone knew how easy your mother was. Look at her now, dead and gone. My other brother just smirked. What's the big deal? Or are you scared? I swallowed hard. And if I'm not his son? I asked. My father leaned so close I could smell the cheap whiskey on his breath. Then you owe me everything. Your life, your education, the roof over your head. And you're going to pay it all back. I didn't respond. But right there, in that exact moment, something inside me broke. And with it, their downfall began. That night was the final straw. When I came home, the lock had been changed. My belongings were stuffed into black trash bags and dumped in the yard. Taped to the door was a note in his handwriting, until you prove you belong here, you're not welcome in this house. I said nothing. I gathered my things one by one and walked away. In a cheap motel room that reeked of disinfectant, I sat on the hard bed, still hearing their words. The insult to my dead mother burned in my chest. It wasn't just about inheritance anymore. It was about every humiliation, every look of contempt, every time they'd made me feel invisible. I opened my laptop and wrote the most important email of my life. Dear family, I accept Dad's challenge. I've scheduled urgent DNA tests for next Saturday. I paid extra for 72-hour rush processing for all sons, as he requested. Results will be ready Tuesday. I sent it to my father, my stepmother, both brothers, and copied all the uncles and cousins. If they wanted a public show, I'd give them one. 20 minutes later, my stepmother replied, "Darling, I think your father expressed himself poorly. No need to involve everyone." Too late. The next morning, I went to see my grandfather's lawyer, an old man with sharp eyes behind tired glasses. I laid everything out. Legally, the will stands, he said. Your grandfather named you heir by full name, not by bloodline. But, he paused. If someone withheld information about paternity to manipulate family or financial decisions, that could be considered fraud. And fraud changes everything. That afternoon, I forced myself to step into my grandfather's house. Technically, it was mine now. In the attic, among yellowed papers and dusty boxes, I found something that froze my blood, a letter my grandfather had written 15 years ago to his best friend. I don't know what to think of my son's new wife. There's something in her haste to form a family that feels wrong. The poor boy seems like a ghost in his own home. Yesterday I found him crying in the garden. I asked why, and he said, "Grandpa, why does Dad hate me?" I didn't know how to answer. My eyes blurred. My grandfather had known. He'd always known. Another line chilled me further. Last night, I overheard my son on the phone. He said something about keeping up the farce until the old man dies. I didn't understand the details, but the tone. God, the tone was like a man waiting for inheritance. So that was it. My father had played the dutiful son while secretly plotting humiliation for years. But one piece was still missing: why the desperation for money? On Monday, I went to the property registry. As heir, I had the right to see the records of the house where my father lived. What I found left me breathless. 3 foreclosure notices. The last one had been stamped just a week earlier. My father had 2 months to find $10,000 or lose the house. Suddenly everything clicked: the rage, the humiliation, the threats. They weren't fighting for family honor. They were fighting for survival. My phone rang. My stepmother's syrupy voice oozed through the line. "Darling, your father is very upset. You know how delicate his heart is. Don't you think it would be wiser to settle this privately? Think of the scandal. Wasn't it your husband who made this a scandal in the first place?" I replied, calm in a way that surprised even me. "I'm just following his rules. See you Saturday." 2 hours later, my older brother called. "Hey, rat. Dad says if you back off from this stupid test, he'll let you stay in the basement apartment. The basement apartment of the house they'd be losing in 60 days. I let the silence hang. "How do you know that?" "I know many things, brother. See you Saturday." By Thursday, my father had changed the locks on my grandfather's house, my house now. At first I panicked, then fury kicked in, but I remembered the lawyer's words. I called the police. "Officer, I am the legal heir to this property. I have the certified will. Someone has changed the locks without authorization." 2 hours later, I stood with a locksmith and a police officer at my side. My father came running when he saw the patrol cars. "This is my house. My father lived here," he shouted. The officer reviewed the documents, then looked up. "Sir, according to this will, the property legally belongs to your son. You are trespassing." The color drained from my father's face. He glared at me with a hatred I'd never seen before. "This isn't over." "No," I said, meeting his eyes. "It's not." That night, I texted a photo of the new keys to my father and stepmother. "Property secured. Thanks for reminding me to verify my rights." On Friday, my cousin forwarded a screenshot from the family chat. My stepmother had written, "Don't worry, boys. Your father has everything under control. On Saturday, the mistake will be corrected and we'll go back to normal." I laughed for the first time in weeks. If only they knew what I knew. Saturday came bright and sunny. I put on the shirt my grandfather had given me for my graduation. Today was about honoring him the right way. I arrived at the lab 30 minutes early. I wanted to see their faces when they walked in. My father appeared first, strutting in a new suit, arrogance wrapped around him like a second skin. My stepmother followed, flanked by her 2 sons like they were bodyguards. They took selfies in the parking lot, family fierce. The irony burned my stomach. "Son," my father said in his fake paternal tone, "you can still stop this. Admit you were wrong, and we'll give you something. An apartment, perhaps. Don't humiliate yourself further." "Humiliate myself?" I stared at him. "This was your idea, Dad. I'm only accepting your challenge." The technician called us in. While I waited for my turn, I watched my so-called family. My stepmother leaned close to whisper something in my brother's ear. He turned and gave me a look of pure contempt. Whatever they were plotting, I was already 5 steps ahead. During the week of waiting, their smear campaign began. They called every uncle, cousin, anyone who would listen. "The grandson is unhinged," my father said over the phone, unaware I had set all my calls to forward and record. "He wants to steal everything. His grandfather was senile when he wrote that will." My stepmother played softer. "We always knew something wasn't right with him. Poor boy grew up without a mother's guidance. And now that my husband has a heart condition," her voice quivered perfectly on cue. I sent one email to the entire family. "I am simply fulfilling the demand of my father and his wife. Any questions about this drama, please direct them to them." On Wednesday, my older brother tried to break into my grandfather's house. The security cameras I'd installed caught him fumbling at the back door. At 2 a.m., I sent him a screenshot. "Should I add trespassing charges to the list?" His reply came fast. "It was my grandfather's house too." "Was," I answered. "Now it's mine." He never wrote back. Thursday brought the worst call of all. The lab. "Sir, we've had an incident." The call from the lab nearly made my heart stop. "A woman claiming to be your relative tried to bribe one of our technicians to alter the results." Per protocol, we have to inform you. My pulse pounded in my ears. What woman exactly? She identified herself as your father's wife. She offered $5,000 to correct some errors. $5,000, money they didn't have. Desperate money. What did you do? We escorted her out immediately. And everything is on video. Perfect. Evidence of attempted bribery. The next day, Friday afternoon, the email finally arrived. Subject: results of your confidential paternity test. I locked myself in my room. For a week, I had forced myself to stay composed, but now, holding the answers in my hands, fear hit me like a freight train. What if I really wasn't his son? With shaking hands, I opened my result first. 99.9% compatibility. For the first time in days, I exhaled. I was his son, officially, legally, scientifically. Then I opened my older brother's file. The eternal favorite. The real son. 0%. My younger brother. 0%. Neither of them belonged to my father. I jumped from my chair so fast it toppled backward. My chest heaved as I paced the room, trying to grasp the enormity of it. It wasn't that my father had despised me without reason. It was that his entire family was built on a monumental lie. That night, I searched the attic of my grandfather's house. I wasn't even looking for legal proof anymore, I just wanted something from my mother, something they hadn't managed to erase. Among broken decorations and dusty boxes, I found a small metal container. Inside were photographs. My stepmother, years younger, holding 2 babies, my brothers, unmistakably. But the man beside her wasn't my father. He was a stranger, younger, with the exact same face as my brothers. The dates on the back. 2 years before her marriage to my father. Everything clicked into place like a cruel puzzle. On one photo, in shaky handwriting, it said, "To my love, who accepts my boys as his own. Emma, 1998. She hadn't entered the marriage alone. She came with children. And my father had known from the start. He wasn't a victim of betrayal, he was an accomplice. He had raised another man's sons while despising me for being the only one truly his." On Monday, I called my lawyer. "I need you to summon my father, my stepmother, and her sons for a final meeting. Tell them it's to clarify lineage in order to execute my grandfather's will." "Do you have the results?" he asked. "I have them. And more." "How bad is it?" I almost smiled. "Let's just say my father is about to learn that raising children who aren't yours, while hating the only one who is, has consequences." I printed 3 sets of DNA reports. I printed the attic photos. I printed the foreclosure notices. I printed the transcripts of the phone recordings. 5 identical folders. On Tuesday, my stepmother called again. Her voice was frail, trembling. "Darling, your father isn't sleeping. He's so stressed. Couldn't we resolve this privately? We're family." Family? I laughed bitterly. Funny word to use. Do you know what I found in the attic this week? Silence. Long, heavy silence. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course you don't," I said. "Not until Wednesday, when you see the results in black and white." "The results won't change anything," she said, her voice cracking. "Your father will always be your father." "You're right," I told her. "But he'll also be no one else's." She hung up. Wednesday morning, I dressed for the meeting. I thought about my grandfather, about the nights he'd sat beside me when I cried, about the letter where he admitted his suspicions, about how he had seen the farce before anyone else and planted his will like a time bomb, set to detonate at the perfect moment. This wasn't just inheritance. This was posthumous justice. My phone buzzed. A message from my older brother. "Cancel that joke of a meeting." I had already sent my reply before the meeting. "We already know the results are wrong. You're adopted. Period. See you at 2 p.m. And bring tissues. You're going to need them. Driving to the lawyer's office, I felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. The same kind of peace a surgeon must feel before cutting out a tumor. For 25 years, I'd wondered what was wrong with me. Why I never fit in. Why my father's eyes carried only disappointment when they looked at me. Now I knew, there was nothing wrong with me. The rot had always been in them. And today, the world would finally see it. The conference room smelled of stale coffee and tension. My father walked in first, wearing the same arrogant smirk he'd always used to intimidate me. My stepmother followed, flanked by her 2 sons like loyal bodyguards, the perfect family, united against the mistake. They sat across from me as if preparing to punish a child. The lawyer silently shuffled papers. I laid 5 folders neatly in front of me. Before this farce continues, my father growled, slamming the table, I want proof. Show me the result that proves you are not my son. End this humiliation once and for all. I slid the first folder across the table. The lawyer opened it, adjusted his glasses, and looked directly at my father. He is your son. 99.9% compatibility. The silence was deafening. My stepmother went pale. My father's jaw dropped. Impossible, my older brother muttered. Your turn, I said, pushing the second folder toward him. He opened it with trembling hands. His face crumbled as he saw it. 0%. Mom, what does this mean? He whispered. My younger brother leaned over. 0. That can't be right. I slid him the third folder. His hands shook so badly he almost tore the envelope. His result, 0%. His eyes glazed over as he stared at his mother. My father snatched the papers away, shouting, lies. A conspiracy. I let him rage. When his voice finally broke, I leaned in. You demanded the truth. You never said you'd like it. His face twisted in fury. My stepmother opened her mouth, but nothing came out. There's more, I said, sliding the fourth folder. Photos spilled across the table, her as a young woman, holding 2 baby boys, standing beside another man. Not my father. The man who looked exactly like my brothers. My father's face went from confusion to realization, then to a rage I'd never seen. No, my stepmother whispered. How did you let this happen? He roared, slamming the table. The deal was that he wouldn't matter. Our pact was to protect the boys. Your only job was to control your mistake. She shot back like a cornered animal. And your only job was to keep him down while we built a real family. 20 years of lies collapsed into screaming accusations. When she tried to deny again, I took out my phone and hit play. The video from the lab appeared, her sliding an envelope across the counter. $5,000 to fix the results. The lawyer froze. The evidence was undeniable. Attempted bribery, I said evenly. That's a federal crime. Contest this will, and I forward this video to the prosecutor. She slumped into her chair, defeated. My brothers stared at her like she was a stranger. Mom, my older brother whispered, who is that man in the photos? He's your real father, I said flatly. You're not my brothers. You never were. My younger brother stood so quickly his chair toppled. This isn't real. Sit down, my father roared, but his authority was gone. Finally, my stepmother found her voice. I was young. He abandoned me when he found out I was pregnant. Your father saved me. Saved you. My father's voice shook with fury. Saved you. I destroyed my life for you. I raised another man's sons while I tormented the only one who was actually mine. The truth was eating them alive. I slid the last folder across the table. Foreclosure notices. Final warnings. Proof of their financial ruin. And I know you're broke, I said. You needed this inheritance to plug the next hole. The lawyer folded his hands. The silence in that room was louder than any scream. He opened the folder and saw the foreclosure notices. The last trace of dignity drained from his face. How, he muttered. I'm the heir now, I said calmly. I have the right to review any liabilities attached to the property. 2 months to pay $10,000, or you lose the house. The lawyer cleared his throat. The will is clear. The estate is for direct lineage. The DNA results confirm that only one person in this room qualifies. The sound of my pen signing the inheritance papers echoed like a judge's gavel. I stood, looking each of them in the eye, my father broken, my stepmother pale with fear, my brothers staring as the only reality they'd ever known collapsed. Moving is hard on a family, I said evenly. You have 30 days to vacate my house. You ungrateful, my father began, but I cut him off. I am your son. The problem is, you chose not to be my father. My stepmother tried one last plea. Wait, can we talk about this? We're family. I stopped at the door. Family? You destroyed that word a long time ago. You can't throw us into the street, my older brother shouted. Not my problem, I said coldly. I was never part of your family, remember? This isn't over, my father hissed. No, I told him. It's just beginning. I walked out, leaving behind 25 years of lies detonating like a bomb. In the hallway, their voices erupted, shouts, accusations, sobbing. But I didn't feel pity. I felt justice. That night, I slept deeply for the first time since my grandfather's funeral, not as a victim, but as the rightful heir he always knew I was. 6 months later, I sent their belongings to storage with a single text, Unit 237. Expires on the 30th, tell your wife hers are in 238. He never replied. Their disgrace spread like wildfire through the family, not just paternity fraud, but a decades-long conspiracy. My father and stepmother became pariahs. Their marriage imploded in a poisonous divorce, each blaming the other for their ruin. My so-called brother called me once, crying. Our mother lied to us our whole lives. He kicked us out. We have nothing. Now you know what it's like, I told him. To be a stranger in your own house. And I hung up. I've begun restoring my grandfather's old workshop. Among rusted tools, I found a photo of my biological parents. I framed it, placed it on the mantel, then burned my stepmother's box of memories, a necessary cleansing. Last week, my cousin wrote, Grandpa always knew you were the only one of pure gold. He'd be proud. Yesterday, a message from an unknown number appeared, you ruined my life and my son's lives. I hope you rot in hell. It was her. I deleted it. Blocked the number. They don't even deserve my anger. And today, sitting on the porch of the house that is truly mine, I understand the final irony. My father demanded a DNA test to prove I didn't belong to his family. In the end, the test proved that the family he built never belonged to him. Justice wasn't revenge. It was truth. My grandfather didn't just leave me property, he left me the weapon to end the lies. Now, for the first time in 25 years, the house is silent. But it's a clean silence. No secrets. No masks. No shame. For the first time, I am exactly where I belong.